Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph, 37 lines down by the Mishnah. Elu dvarim she'en lahem hona'ah. These things do not have price fraud, no matter what. Ha'abadim v'hashterot, selling of slaves or debts. If you're selling a debt, land, karkaot v'hakdashot, land and bet hamikdash property. And on Tashon Kefil, if it's stolen, you don't pay double fees. You don't pay the 4 or 5 fees, as you mentioned in Bava Kama. Shomer chinam inan mishba. If an unpaid watchman is watching it and he says that it got stolen, whatever it is, he doesn't swear. Then and a paid shomer does not pay for it if these things are stolen, even though he usually does. Rabbi Shimon says, because the shim the hekdesh that the guy is chayav to take care of, there is price fraud. So there's certain hekdesh items that a person has and his property has to take care of. If that's sold, that's subject to price fraud. But is not responsible for ilan that's not considered price fraud. That belongs solely to the Bet HaMikdash, which is not subject to price fraud. Rabbi says, even if someone's selling a Torah, Sefer Torah, an animal or a jewel, there's no fraud. That only applies to the following things, but nothing else. So we're going to talk about everything. How do you know that what we said in the Mishnah does not apply? There's no price for it. The Tanna Rabbanan said, if you sell something to your friend or buy something from your friend, that only applies to things that go from hand to hand, which is the movable item. Which excludes land, that's not movable. Also, slaves are excluded because we always say that slaves have the equal halachot to land. Debts are also excluded because if you sell something, that's something that means that something physically is sold and something physically bought. Versus but that doesn't apply to a debt because the debt itself is sold. The paper is just paid paper, and therefore, if a debt is sold, that's not something that's handed over, and therefore there's no ona'ah. The paper that's there is just as a reminder or to make sure that you can't scam him. Therefore we said, if someone sells his the notes of a shtar of a debt to a spice dealer to use to wrap the spices, there is fraud. So pshita, of course. We're coming to exclude Rav Kahana, right? Because why would you think that the Gemara is saying, of course it is. If he's using it for the actual wrapping paper, then it is considered an item. So of course it'll be price fraud, only if it's just selling the debt. So no, we're trying to exclude Rav Kahana. Amar and on Al Pshat says there's no price fraud for pirutot. Yani there's the minimum is higher than that. Therefore teaching you that even these pieces of papers are subject to ona'ah. Next part, Hagdashot, temple property, Bet HaMikdash stuff. Amar Kira Ahiv. The Pasuk says that regarding price fraud, you only have it by your brother. Ahiv, the Hagdash only applies to other people, but not Bet HaMikdash property. So Matkif Ramal, So now we're saying that you said only stuff from hand to hand. So that means when it said hand, it means physically you have to hand it over. So any place where it says hand in the pasuk, yado mash, only means the actual hand. If that's the case, when Sichon captured all the land from Moab, it said he took it from his hand. Does that mean that he's holding the land in his land? Holding the land in his hand? No. It's referring to it came from his possession. Maybe over here also means in general, anything that you buy from your friend's possession, there's ona'ah. So we should include all cases, not just things that are movable objects against our Mishnah. Now we're going to go back on offense and say the opposite. No, you're telling me that every time it says hand, it doesn't mean it literally. But it says, Pasuk says regarding someone stealing something, if the item is found in the thief's possession, in the thief's hand, and the other, we say that from there, it only applies to his hand. Gago, hasero, having noted that even if it's in his roof, yard, or house, double ashun of finding means all possessions, no matter what, not only his hand. So the Gemara says, the only reason why it did not read it literally his hand is because the word double ashon of himaseh that taught us other locations. If it wasn't that, you might think that means hand leans literally. That's proof number one. Another proof that yado means hand leans literally. Regarding a get, you have to put it in her hand. In the Eliada, I only know that her hand works. Gaga, Hatzera, Bekarfifami, I don't know that if we put it any elsewhere in her possession, it works. Tamodamar, Vinna, Tam, as long as you give it, we teaches you anywhere. So again, the only reason why the Barta does not interpret the hand mean actual hand is because the Torah wrote the word vinatan, which taught us other locations also. But not for that, havamina, you might think means literally. So therefore, we're proving from here that yado means literally his hand. So how about the Gemara's question about Sichon and Moav? Really, generally, when it says his hand means his hand as well. Our Mishnah also good proof. Hand means hand and nothing else. But regarding Sichon, it's different. In the case of Moab, it obviously couldn't mean literally, and over there the exception. But in general, it means literally. Okay. Ba'ida bizera. Sechirut. Renting an item. Is that separate to price for it? If I price gouge a person for renting something, is that voidable / refundable or not? So now, what's the question? Do we say that the Torah meant literally a sale? That excludes rental. Or maybe there's no difference. Abaye says, does it say that it has to be a permanent sale? No. It just says the stam without the regular sale, which means even a rental technically is a sale for the day or for the amount of time that he's renting it. Therefore, renting also is subject to price floor. Ba'irav, another question. Heitin uzra'an bekarka mahu. Someone plants wheat seeds in the ground, and he planted seeds in the ground. So now, is that subject to fraud or not? What's the question? If the seeds are viewed as if they're in a regular container, the seeds container, they're going to sell them. Therefore, movable object maybe they're considered part of the land, and therefore there's no price fraud. What's specifically, you have to go deeper. If the seller told the buyer, I used to have 6 volumes of seeds in the field and I'm selling you those, but witnesses came and said he only planted 5, that's not good. Rava says that in that scenario where he said he promised he put 6 gallons of seeds and he only put 5, that's not price fraud. That's a voidable sale because it's a mistaken sale. I'm under the impression I'm buying 6, you sold me 5. Even though it's not a 6th off, even if it's less than a 6th of fraud, doesn't make a difference. It's a voidable sale because it's not that's not what I bought. So that's not the case. So Ella, and therefore Ella the Amar Ihu rather he says I planted it just like you told me to. But then he says I planted as much as I could to fill the field, and then we found out that he didn't. Does that still apply as price fraud? The Gemara says, same question. Is that considered like you're putting this, we're holding the seeds in our hand, and therefore it's considered movable, or is it considered part of the land? Gemara says, so the Gemara, 1 second. Do you, in regarding to Shivua, if someone has to swear on it, let's say, would he swear on it or not? Are they considered as if it's inside the container and therefore movable and therefore you're swearing? Maybe it's considered as planted and therefore it's not considered not and therefore you can't swear on it. So the Gemara says, Omer Matiran, let's try another way. Omer Matirano in Omer Matiran. This is the Korbana Omer, which we bring at the end of Shavuot to allow previously grown wheat and grains. That allows us to eat the previously grown items. So in this scenario, will the Omer, Kobana Omer, the Kobana Omer is brought the next day? Is that allowing these seeds or not? What's the case? If it is already rooted into the ground where the Omer was already brought. Taina, we have a Mishnah. If the seeds do not take root, that also can't be what the Hidush is, because we also have a Mishnah on that. The time of Mishnah says, if the seeds took root before the Omer was brought, Omer Matiran, then because it's rooted, it's considered like a plant, and therefore the Korban Omer will allow you to eat it. The in love, if there's no roots, they have to wait till the next year. So now, now we really explain our case. We're talking about a case that he harvested them the kernels, and he planted them before the Omer was brought. And now the Omer came and passed with them in the ground, but there's no roots. So what's the question? There's no roots, then what's the question? Because mahu lemintkat umechal minahu. What if I decide, you know what? I planted them, no roots, the Omer passed, now I want to dig them up and eat them as seeds. I want some visit. So now, does that still apply? Are they still considered movable objects like in the container? Therefore, the Omer already permitted them. Maybe once I planted them, the Omer did not do anything yet because there's no roots, and therefore I have to wait. Teku. Gemara says Teku. He asked the question. So in the case of our Mishnah, of the all these cases, okay, there's no such thing as price fraud, but is there enough to be a void in sale or not? Even though there's no ona'ah, there can be a void in sale. Rabbi Yochanan said that Rabbi Yochanan was saying that Rabbi Yochanan only said that on Bet HaMikdash property. Rabbi Yochanan said even about land. But they both quoted Rabbi Yochanan. Ona'ah in lahem bitul mekech yesh lahem. Each according to their opinion, whether it was land or hekdesh stuff. There's no ona'ah, but you can void the sale. The one who said it was the Rabbi Yochanan held that it was about Bet HaMikdash property. That for sure applies to regular land, because if the Bet HaMikdash property has the avoidance of the sale, it for sure applies to regular property, because we are more mekel by we're more mekel by in generally by hekdesh property. So if we're machmir there, we're for sure machmir by regular land. According to the opinion that according to the opinion of the Yochanan holds it only applies to regular land. But one would say applied to Bet HaMikdash property. Like Shmuel said, if someone wants to, for some reason, quote unquote, wants to scam Bet HaMikdash, and he puts $1,000 value that he's supposed to bring as hekdesh, he has a hekdesh item, $1,000, he put it onto $1 item. Mechulal, it works. It transfers over. You may be getting an abida or 2 or 3 or 4 or 1,000, but it works. So we have a question. According to Yonah, who held that Yochanan's opinion, we have Mishnah says otherwise. Kodesh ba'al mum, a hekdesh animal got a blemish, and now you try to transfer to a lower animal. It transfers, but you have to make up the value. So that means that we just said that we held that you could transfer it, no problem. No problem. Over here now we're saying if you transfer it to something that's not worth it, you have to pay the difference. No. In a chanami. It transfers no problem through doraita. However, if it's Chachamim made a takana that you have to pay the difference. Rish says no. Even doraita you have to make up the value. Pay the difference. We're asking what's the case in Mishnah? In Mishnah's case, where the price difference was the amount of the price fraud. That case, would Rabbi Lakish hold that you have to make up a difference? But Mishnah says no. There's no such thing as price fraud. Maybe our case is talking about a case where you avoided the sale because more than a sixth. In that case, Rabbi Yochanan would say that you have to make the difference. Only midrabanan. But Rabbi Yonah said that Rabbi Yochanan held was about hekdesh, and Rabbi said it's about land. But we know that according to Rabbi Yochanan, so according to Yonah, clearly Rabbi Yochanan would hold that if it's more than a sixth, it is not a good transfer. So how do we fit Rabbi Yochanan / Rabbi Yonah together? We enter with our Shagish. So the Gemara says, "Le'olam debitul mekach rather Mishnah Tomar case where you are avoiding the sale." Stira that we mentioned, very simple. The epuch to Rabbi Yochanan v'Shakish for Shakish Yochanan. When we quoted the rabbis, we misquoted them, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan is Shakish and Shakish will come to Yochanan, and therefore now according to Yonah, Rabbi Yochanan can hold that the guy who transferred it has to pay the difference midoraita, and that fits perfectly. And Rabbi Yochanan also understands that you have to just pay it off midorabanan. And that fits with our Mishnah as well. Amen.